And we're off to the races. So I just took my earbuds out and I dropped them. And that really bothers me because I've gotten good at like perfecting ear to case. And so the other day I had my earbuds in and I did my motion, not even looking, went straight to case. And I thought, this is a skill that I have mastered. And I was like really feeling good about myself. And then I think it was the next night, I get into the elevator right here at the office and I push the button. As soon as I get in, I go ear to case. I go ear to floor. And so it falls out of my hands and the door hasn't closed yet. As it's falling out of my hands before it hits the ground, I see this little strip of space for the elevator doors to be in, right? And so I see this, it can't be wider than like 3 inches or something. But I saw it all play out in my mind. And I was like, no. And I tried to grab it before I hit the ground and I missed. And sure enough, it just went bounce, bounce, gone. And like it didn't even rattle around. It was just a swish straight down the elevator shaft. And it was just gone. And so I had a little moment and I looked down to think if there's any way at all that I could even take a shot at this. And it was like 0% chance. Anyway, I bring all that up because I was just feeling good about myself again. And I went ear to floor. And then I had like this elevator flashback of, oh my God, I'm going to lose my earbud. Anyway, welcome to the Q&A. That was the first answer to the question that nobody asked, which is tell us whatever's on your mind right now as you drop things on the floor. So we're going to go over a bunch of questions that have come in and you all can continue. I see several of you have already asked a few questions in the chat. So wherever you're watching this, you can type into chat. First of all, be as engaged as you can. I would appreciate it. I want to hear what you have to say or share or question or whatever. So as I'm reading the chat over here, I'm seeing some questions come in. If you have a question, my suggestion or request is that you put a Q colon in front of it so we can clearly see that it's a question. And we're going to go through as many of them as possible. We have a chunk of questions that came in for those people that are on our email list that want to ask questions as well. If you're not on our email list, I mean, I don't see how you're enjoying life if you're not on our email list. So if you want to be on our email list, you can go to our website, coachshawnsmith.com. There's a little tab, I think that says free resources, something like that. And there's all kinds of free stuff that you can get. You can join the list. And then you get emails about this Q&A stuff and videos that we put out on YouTube and all the places. And if you are joining us from YouTube, then thank you for being a subscriber. And we've got all kinds of content for you here. And it's really all about coaching, like how to be a better coach and how to build a better coaching business. So that's the essence of what we do here and the essence of the conversation that I'm sure we'll have today based on all your questions. And I am a teacher and I like to teach to comprehension as much as I can. So I tend to talk a little bit longer about the answers that I have because I really want you to understand them. And there's so many variables that are involved. So a lot of my questions or my answers to the questions are, well, if this is the case, or if this is the case, or if this is the case, or this is what I want you to think about. But I really want you to understand, like I'd rather you know how to think than to be told what to think. And unfortunately, I think we live in a world where so many of us are just being told what to think or being told what to do. And if you're just being told what to do, then you can't really ever be an entrepreneur where you find your own answers, right? Where you have agency and independence and figure stuff out on your own. So that's the place that I come from primarily. And that's why I answer the questions the way that I answer the questions. And before I get going on the questions, I just want to make this announcement. I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But we do have our 5-day certification program coming up. It's called ECCP, which stands for Elite Coaching Certification Program. It is April 24th through the 28th. And we currently are in the 5th day of a 7-day window where you can get $500 off. We've not done this before, where we're giving you a week where we're taking $500 off of the ticket price. And there's still, as of the recording of this video right now, there are today plus 2 additional days, Friday, March 10th, and that offer goes away. So you can check it out and read more about the program. I'm not going to go into it right now, maybe later. It's on the video right there, or the screen, coachshansmith.com/ECCP. All right, let's get to the first question. The first question is, about ECCP. Let me say this. I told you I wasn't going to tell you all about it, but I want to tell you at least a little bit about it so you understand what it is that we're talking about here to an extent. It is an online certification program, so it's on computer. We do it through Zoom. I'm sure most of you have been on all kinds of Zoom sessions lately, and so that's what we're going to do, is have another online certification program. We generally run these certifications right around every 6 months or so. The last couple of years, the last year, we haven't really fully been on that 6-month track, but we generally do it about twice a year. And it's just phenomenal experience. 5-day deep dive, massive transformation. It actually leads into this first question. The first question is, I am a transformational coach for teenage girls of color. Do you think NLP coaching would benefit these girls? So NLP is the basis of the work that I do and have been doing since 2006 when I got certified in NLP. It's not all that we do. So the curriculum around our coaching skills or the curriculum of our coaching skills is not only NLP, but it started with NLP. And then I've added things along the way as I learned from different methodologies and all that stuff. So it's a wide collection. But NLP is the basis, and it was the content way back then that completely transformed my entire life. So it's the foundation of the deep work coaching that we do. And I firmly stand behind NLP when, used in a way to help people change their lives. It's everything. I mean, it's everything when it comes to helping people live a better life and helping people change their relationship with themselves and understanding how the brain works, and so many of the real big issues and problems that people are dealing with. What I love the most about NLP is that it helps us understand our belief systems, and it helps us understand the inner experience of our collision with the world, right? We look out of our eyes, we hear with our ears, we feel with our, with our fingers, assuming that you have those senses, whatever senses you have access to, that's how we interpret, or that's how we access all that's accessible in the world. But then we interpret what we access, and we do all that inside of our minds, and we're making choices, and we're defining certain things, and we're deciding a lot of things that are going on in our lives, and we decide what our values are, and we make beliefs, and we make determinations, and we make promises to ourselves. And it's just like this pinball machine going on inside of our head of life experience. And NLP allows us to understand that process better than most of us do, because this is not stuff that we're taught in schools, not stuff that we're taught very many places that I'm aware of, at least, that I've experienced. And so it helps us understand the human brain more than most of us do. I don't know if this is something that was told to me or this is an assessment that I made early on, but I remember saying NLP is kind of like the owner's manual for the brain that nobody ever got, because that's not written. So at least in my experience, that was as close to the owner's manual of the brain, to understand how we do the things that we do, and then how we can change whatever it is that we want to change. So that's the depth of NLP. And because of that, it is phenomenally powerful in helping people change any part of their lives. Teenagers, I don't want to say especially, because I'm not saying necessarily that teenagers can use like this deep work necessarily any better than anybody else, but the earlier we are in our life's journey, the less baggage we're carrying. So NLP is not the only coaching methodology that can be implemented with people. So I would say the same thing about any methodology in terms of like, if we get them earlier, then they'll be able to make shifts sooner or easier. It's kind of like learning a language, right? Learning a language early on is a lot easier than trying to learn a language when you're 40, 50, 60, just because so much has already been sort of cemented, right? But NLP specifically helps with self-esteem and self-confidence and understanding the ego and understanding what we call meta programs and how the brain is operating. And in my experience, it really gives younger kids just a phenomenally powerful self-awareness and understanding about motivation and can help with certain traumas or certain negative belief systems that have already been formed. So that's a little bit of a long answer. The short answer is yes, absolutely. The longer answer is, days and days and days worth if we take all the things into consideration. But I guess that would be my medium answer. Yes, and here's a little bit of why. And I also want to say to you that the work that you're doing, not just with teenagers, but with teenagers of color, is so amazing that you're doing that work. And it sounds like, this is just my guess, but if you're targeting teenagers of color, specifically girls of color, you're dealing with a lot of systems. You're dealing with gender systems, you're dealing with age systems, you're dealing with cultural systems, you're dealing with race systems, you're dealing with political systems. And one of the things that I love about NLP is systems work, right? And there's systems work that can be applied to individuals, but then there's systems work that can be applied to societies. And a lot of it translates, right? Like if you understand how belief systems can take a hold of somebody in their first 6 years of life, let's say, then you can understand how certain belief systems can take hold in a certain group of people and how those belief systems turn into behaviors and patterns and all this other stuff. So I think that kind of NLP specific work will absolutely help with the work that you're doing with these teenage girls of color. So yeah, thank you for the question, and I wish you all the best with that. Next question. How do you prepare a new client for deep coaching? There's a lot of variables here. Like what does prepare them for deep coaching actually mean? And I don't know that there's anything that we can do to guarantee or control. That's the word I was looking for. To control that somebody is prepared. But what we can do as a coach is assess whether they are prepared. And we don't ever want to do anything with anybody that's not prepared to do it. Emotionally, physically, sometimes time-wise, you might not have a whole lot of time with people. So one of the most important mastery level coaching skills is the assessment of when somebody's ready for something. And if they're not ready, don't force it. But we can plant seeds. We can help them breathe, maybe, if we want to help them, or if we want to maybe lead them through a visualization or something like that. We can certainly ask them questions. Is this something that you really want to work on right now? Is it something that you just want to kind of manage on your own for a while? So we're constantly wanting to ask questions that assesses whether somebody is prepared or ready for this. And that the terminology that I'm pretty sure was in NLP, it's not NLP specific, is leverage. We want to make sure that a client is leveraged, like there's leverage to do something now. And I think your question of whether they're prepared for deep coaching is a leverage question. But there's also permission. You have to have permission as the coach to do the work that you want to do with people, especially when it's deep coaching. So what we do in our programs, ECCP being one of them that I mentioned earlier, is help coaches understand deep rapport and trust, self-trust, how much the client trusts themselves, how much they trust us as a coach, how much you trust yourself as a coach. There's a bunch of different levels and angles to trust and safety and leverage. And in this case, to use your word, preparedness. And the more that you do this work, the more you can start to recognize that when people are at a certain level, they seem to be ready or prepared for that next level. So a lot of that just comes from experience. And that's, no different in coaching than it is in so many other endeavors, right? So I want you to trust your ability to recognize when somebody's prepared by the signals that they're giving off. There are different changes in people's tonality that happens. You are watching what their eyes are doing. You're watching their breathing patterns. You're watching their physiology. So you're watching all of this stuff and you're assessing all along the way. I mean, literally constantly. You're constantly assessing. Are they with me? Are they with me? Are they with me? Are they following? Are they leading if we want them to lead? Does it feel like I need to go back in and ask permission? So it's more about being aware, assessing, and acknowledging than it is controlling. Hopefully that makes sense for the preparedness question. Next question, how do you attract clients that want deep coaching? I'm going to answer this one with a really brief, blunt statement. I don't mean it to sound dismissing or anything like that. But it's true. Just talk about deep coaching. Like if who you want to attract are people that are interested in deep coaching, then you've got to put out deep coaching as the magnet and continue to talk about it. But at the same time, don't force people into depths that they might not be ready for. Today's world is, I believe, more shallow than it's ever been. So to try to force deep conversations into a shallow sliver of consumption is not easy. So part of this is a marketing and messaging conversation. But the more that you put out deep coaching magnets, deep coaching principles and discussions, the more that the people that are interested in that are going to be attracted to it, right? And in order for you to do that, you have to understand deep coaching principles. If you don't understand deep coaching principles, then you're not going to be able to do what I just said. And part of mastery level messaging and marketing is to be able to understand a concept at a deep, deep, deep level, but explain it at a more shallow level so that you can meet people where they are in their ability to understand. And you're constantly assessing, are they paying attention? Are they engaging? Are they taking the steps that I want them to take? Are they asking questions, right? So again, this, similar to what I said about being prepared, part of this is your ability to assess. But yeah, put it out there as the magnet that you are using to attract people, and then see how they're engaging. And you're constantly going to have to change your message. One of the issues that I have with so much of the coaching world and so much of personal development and online world in general is that people are searching for the guaranteed answers of what's going to happen in the future. And nobody has ever achieved any level of deep learning that way, ever. Never. Nobody's ever gotten good at sports. Nobody's ever become a virtuoso, instrument player. Nobody's ever become a really good singer. Nobody's ever become a really good artist of any kind. Nobody's ever created anything by learning the way that we learn in school, because you just literally cannot progress that way. And I'm not trying to jump in on the person that asked that particular question. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here. But at a high level, I don't want you to ask. I want you to ask whatever questions you have, but future-based questions like what will happen if this takes place are not as powerful for your learning as here's what happened. What can I learn from it? Or what can you tell me about the experiences that I've had? Right. And just way too many people are trying to future pace with guarantees and being ready for whatever, could potentially come up. And I'm just coming from the place of what I've seen work after, nearly 18 years in this industry. It just never works that way. You'll never progress in any kind of growth environment, like where growth is necessary. You'll never grow by trying to learn the way that most of us were taught in school, where people tell us something, we borrow the information and give it right back to them on the test without really fully understanding it, because we don't implement it. So, you got to implement. There's no reason to learn something if you're not going to implement it. Like, why learn it? It's like packing something in your backpack that you're not going to use. Why pack it? Don't even pack it. Save the weight, right? Anyway, a little bit of a tangent there. Next question says, how do you deal with someone who says, I don't know, over and over and over again? Depends. Depends on the scenario. Depends on what your intention is. Are you inside of a coaching exercise? Are they telling you that they don't know if they want to change their life? Are you asking them strategy-based questions like, how do you build a YouTube channel? And they're saying, I don't know. So there's so many variables. But I'll break down a couple of things that I'm thinking about in the context of this Q&A session and where my mind is at right now. If people are seemingly dodging with I don't know questions that you think as the coach they should know, then that just tells me it just doesn't feel safe for them to answer the questions. So if you're asking them questions about their childhood, or asking them questions about their current marriage, asking them questions about money, anything that creates discomfort for people, it's so easier for them to go, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's the safest way in the mind to just avoid whatever's uncomfortable with I don't know. And I think that's because the mind isn't ready for somebody to challenge the I don't know. So one of the things that we do as coaches is hold space enough for people with curiosity, and not shame and irritation or anything like that, but curiosity to help them figure it out. And there are questions that people won't figure out, but most of the time they know the answer. They're just saying, I don't know, because they don't like the answer, or they've never explored that answer because they've never asked themselves the same question that you're asking them. So when people are saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I generally get excited as a coach, because it means that we're asking questions that they don't already know the answer to. And if they don't already know the answer to, then that means this is probably a next level question, which means once they find the answer to that, it might get them to another level. So I think as a coach, it's more about your energy and your understanding that they're about to hopefully go to another level here, and holding that energetic space, and then help them with exploration and curiosity, see if they can find the answers. There are questions that they won't know. And you as the coach, as the guide, you might need to help them with certain things. But if you're doing deep work coaching, especially, virtually everybody has their own answers. They just won't ask the right questions, or they won't dig because they don't have the support and they just think it's not safe. So much of what we do is really about helping people find the answers to their I don't know questions. And it's amazing. It's really cool to watch people answer those questions. So I would be most focused on your energy inside of that, rather than what do you actually do or what do you actually say. How do you get started as a coach? Start. I'm trying to see what number I would put on the amount of valid ways to start as a coach. 5,000 different ones. And again, I'm not trying to sound demeaning or disrespectful or like a jerk. I'm truly not. There's just so many ways. The problem that I think most people run into who want to be coaches and end up failing is because they're following recipes that are not aligned with themselves. The reason there are so many different ways to start as a coach is there's so many different people with different comfort levels and different skill sets and different backgrounds and different passions. Like there isn't one specific runway. If you want to be a lawyer, there's one runway. You got to go to law school and you got to pass a test. And then they say, okay, now you can play lawyer. If you want to be a doctor, there's one runway. If you want to be a coach, there is no one runway, which is good or bad, depending on, the conversation. I won't go into that, but the way you start as a coach is as quickly as you can, find the thing that's aligned with you and then do it as often as you can with as much passion as you possibly can. And part of that is to recognize when you're misaligned. But the reason that's so hard for most people, I think, is because we don't know ourselves enough to know what's aligned for us and with us. Because so many of us are constantly being told what to do and asking people what to do that we don't even know our own puzzle piece. And if we don't know our own puzzle piece, how can we figure out what puzzle we should be in? And how can we figure out what puzzle pieces are going to support us if we don't know our own puzzle piece? So at a conceptual level, that's one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem, that causes so many people to struggle is they don't know themselves enough to understand what's aligned with them. And so then whatever feels good to people is not really alignment, it's just comfort. And that's why we're so susceptible to programs that tell us that they can help us avoid all the things that we're afraid of and then teach us how to succeed. And that'll never happen in any journey that requires growth. It'll never happen. There's no such thing as comfort. But we all want it to be true, which is why we keep buying those things. So that's the bigger issue here is lack of alignment. So going back to your question, how do you get started as a coach? With all, again, love and respect, start. And it's as valuable to find what you're misaligned with as it is to find alignment. It's actually probably more valuable because the things that you're going to try early on are not going to be aligned with you right away, more than likely. Or eventually you're going to find something that you ultimately want to, do better than, right? Or your passions will evolve, your niche will evolve, right? And again, it's just one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is to try to predict their path. Oh, predicting your path is such a monumental waste of your time. And anybody that says they can predict your path, please go the other way. Don't give them your money. Don't give them your time. Don't give them your energy. Unless you believe that somebody can predict the unpredictable. If you believe that, then please follow whatever it is you believe. You will find that never, ever works if you want to be aligned, right? One of my favorite concepts, I think it came from Joseph Campbell, the whole hero's journey concept is if you can see the path, it's not your path. If you're wanting to live a unique life and build a business that's distinct and aligned with you. Nobody's paved that path before because that's your path. So if you're trying to find the pre-paved path, it's not your path. It's not your aligned path, at least. All right. I'm getting messages that my video is freezing and it's glitching. So if that's happening for you, I apologize. Hopefully it'll be fine on the recording if you want to go back and watch it again. But I'm being told the audio is fine. So if that's happening for all of you, my apologies. How do you handle client frustration? This is similar to what I said earlier. It's really about checking in on yourself and making sure that you are staying as much as you can calm and rooted and certain. And just because a client is frustrated doesn't mean that you're wrong as the coach. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It doesn't mean that you're a bad coach. Because again, remember that frustration is part of the growing process. You ever watch a baby learn to walk? Even though I don't think that babies actually get frustrated the same way that we do as adults when things don't go right. But if you see a baby learn to walk, their first 1,000 attempts don't go right. And so they try and they fall. And then we might project frustration on them. I don't think they're actually frustrated, but they need to then just get up and try again, right? So again, there's no such thing as learning anything valuable without frustration. You're going to hit frustration. So if you feel frustration in a client, and by the way, if you feel frustration, don't ever believe what you feel about somebody else. Ask them, check in. Don't ever think that just because you think somebody is feeling a certain way or thinking a certain way that you can bet on it. Don't bet on what you think. Ask them. And if you're right, then they'll just confirm that you're right. But if you're wrong and you treat it as though you are right, now, there's all kinds of ways that goes wrong, right? So if they confirm that they're frustrated or they just come out and say they're frustrated, understand that they're at the edge of their comfort zone. That's where frustration lives, at the edge of the comfort zone. So you as a coach can get excited about that because that means that we're going to get to another level here. Hopefully, if we can bust through that level of frustration. Frustration and growth, they just go together. Again, you can't grow comfortably. So frustration is a lack of comfort, and that's a part of growth. You might need to explain that to them. You might need to tell them that not only is frustration okay, frustration is required, and then help them ask questions or help them find answers. But I would be concerned if clients don't get frustrated, because then I don't think that we're doing anything really valuable here. That's just my take on it. Next question. What if you don't have a package, so to speak, to offer because you are so new? Offer a package, and the package could be just a coaching session. Like that could be your package that you just want to help people with. But a lot of people just try to jump out of the gate too fast also. So I'm not a big believer that anybody should be offering any package for payment until you've coached a lot of people for free. Because I think if we haven't as coaches coached a lot of people for free, I don't think we've earned the money. Because I don't think you can know what people are going to go through and then have certainty for yourself in order to offer a package of payment. So I'm saying this not just from this morals perspective or ethical perspective of what's right and wrong. I'm saying this from an energetic perspective, that if you don't believe in what you're offering people, it's going to be extremely difficult to sell it. And if you haven't been in the trenches with a lot of people, asking a lot of questions, getting a lot of these questions you're asking answered through your experience, then that energy is not going to transfer. and people will know that you don't feel certainty in what you're doing. And so then if you continue to do coaching, your package will form itself. Because like if I was coaching you one-on-one and you asked me this question, my question back to you is, when you coach people, what are some of the first things you do with them? And if you don't have an answer to that question, I'm going to say, well, go get that question answered. Coach enough people for free so that you can tell me. Usually when I coach people, one of the first things that we end up doing is an assessment of where they are in their life. Okay, great. Then that's the first thing you should put in your package. And then where does that usually go when you coach all these people for free? Where does that usually go? And then I want you to be able to say, well, where that usually goes is, like, we take a look at it almost always ends up in family relationships. Because before we can go out and build this skyscraper of success, we need to make sure that our foundation is critical. And I'm like, all right, that's module 2 of your program. That's module 2 of your package. So I don't like to deal with theory. I like to deal with experience. And because I don't trust theory. So I don't want you to theoretically put a package together. I want you to experientially put a package together. And so if you don't have that experience, go get it. That's my take on that. And we do have a YouTube video on this. I mean, we got a YouTube video on almost everything. If you look at our channel, we got so many videos out there. But one of the videos that we have specifically on this one is called 5 Steps to Creating High Impact Transformational Coaching Packages on our channel. So you can check that out. It looks like it's a 12-minute video. And Michelle, can you put that in the comment section, the link there? Next question. How do you fire a client? First of all, I like the question because not all clients are best for you. And if you recognize that there's not a fit, that's the conversation I would have. That it just doesn't feel like there's like this is a fit. I wouldn't try to like outright them, meaning I'm right, you're wrong. I wouldn't get into any kind of energetic debate over like they're not doing their homework, so therefore I'm going to fire you because I'm better than you. Not that any of you would ever specifically say that, but energetically, that's how a lot of people take things. And energetically, a lot of times we unconsciously want to prove ourselves, want to prove that we're doing the right thing. And so sometimes that would just come out more energetically than specifically. But I would just have a fit question. Like, this doesn't seem like it's a good fit. Ask them what their experience is. Not that if they're having a great experience, you have to keep them as a client. But I've talked to so many coaches who were frustrated, but their frustration was in their own mind, and they were projecting onto the client things that weren't actually true for the client. And when they asked the client certain questions, like, are you, like, what do you think about our coaching? The client's like, oh, this is amazing. You've helped me change, all these areas of my life. And I'm feeling really like I'm ready to go to the next level. And that caused the coach to change their energy to the client, because they actually heard from the client. And then they didn't want to get rid of the client anymore. So I would check in and make sure that it's an energetic mismatch. But again, even if they're really liking it and it's not a good fit for you, you can at any time end the relationship. But I would just do it from a, own as much as you can. Just talk about that it's not a good fit. That maybe if this is true, don't lie to anybody. But if this is true, say you don't think that you're the right coach for them, or you're not able to give them what they need, and there's somebody else that you think would be better for them. And if you do have referrals, and that's always helpful, you can say, I don't think I would be the best coach for you based on whatever. But I have somebody that could be a better coach for you. So, I'm willing to make the introduction if that's something you're interested in. People would appreciate that. So that's how I would go about it. Next question. I'm currently in CTTP. Awesome. Congratulations. We'll see you there. But in need of a source of income. How do I put myself out there when I am in a transformational process myself? So one of the things that I want to be really clear about for everybody is that I do not think you should ever be teaching the grade that you're in. Meaning, if you're in third grade, you should not be trying to teach third grade because you're in the class. So conceptually, don't be trying to make money off of the stuff that you're currently learning because you haven't earned that place yet. And again, I'm not talking about like from a judgmental standpoint, but I'm talking about from a business standpoint. Like your business hasn't earned that income because you just haven't built what is necessary to build from a marketing standpoint, a messaging standpoint, all that stuff. But if you're in third grade, you could teach second graders and you can teach first graders and you can teach kindergartners, assuming if you understand, the levels of our school system. So I apologize if that's not the school system that you have where you are, but whatever level you are, you can teach the levels below you. And I'm also a firm believer to not put pressure on a business that's in survival mode. So if you are building a business and your business is in survival mode, and everybody's business starts in survival mode. Most people never get out of survival mode because they don't know they don't understand this concept that I'm talking about right now. Because they try to go from survival to like extreme success. You can't do that. I mean, that's like, taking an 8-month-old child and putting them on a bicycle. There's so many levels before they get to bike riding, right? So like it's so interesting. I think we would never try to force human evolution, not evolution in terms of, generations over generations, but human development. That's the word. We would never force human development. We would never take the child that just learned how to stand and like push them and try to teach them how to run. We would never force development because we understand there are phases. And if you force the development, it's going to ruin everything. Almost every single person is forcing their business development. Why? Because we don't like to suck. We don't like to fail. We don't like to be beginners. And the more our ego has become accustomed to succeeding, the less we enjoy failing. So if you've built a successful practice in any other area, or you've just become successful in life in any kind of way, your ego hates the idea of starting over again at square one in some other endeavor. So we're constantly fighting our own dislike of failure and starting over and stumbling and not being able to being incompetent. We hate being incompetent. So because of that, we try to force through shortcuts and guarantees the development of a business. And just like a child cannot have their development forced forward, neither can your business. I don't care what they tell you. It's all bullshit. They're essentially saying, you have an 8-month-old child? Here, take my course and I'll teach you how to have your child swimming the English Channel by next month. None of you would fall for that in child development. I'm going to say this with all due respect. I'm going to put myself in it too because it's true. We've all fallen for that in business development because we want the fantasies to be true. But if somebody would tell us that we can take an 8-month-old child and teach him how to swim the English Channel, we know that's not possible because of what we've learned. But most of us don't have that same knowledge about business development in order to go, yeah, that's not possible. And so we're constantly trying to force an 8-year-old or an 8-month-old rather. In business, we're constantly trying to force our toddler to drive a Ferrari. And you can put that toddler in the Ferrari, and I promise you, they will kill themselves before they learn to drive. Your business will die before it gets stable. if you constantly try to force its development. So I say all of that because I don't suggest any of you put financial pressure on a survival business. Don't try to pay your rent with an unstable business when you don't know if money's coming in, because there's a required uncertainty in business. And if your survival in business and potentially financially is on the line and it's floating in a boat that you don't trust, you're not going to be able to do the things that you actually need to do to develop your business, because you just come from survival mode. There are a few exceptions to that. There are some people who have such a high tolerance for risk and such a high tolerance for financial risk specifically that they can be almost going underwater and still swimming properly. In business, I'm using this as a business analogy. Most people, when we're about to go underwater, we're flailing and flapping and dog paddling like crazy. While you're dog paddling to not go underwater, you're not learning to swim. You're just avoiding drowning. So if you task your toddler business with building the kind of financial stability that you need, it's not fair. It's not fair on the business. It's not fair on yourself. And it's so extremely rare that that actually works. The problem is when it does work, that's a really sexy story. So we listen to the story. It makes great movies. Phenomenal. But since it's such a sexy story, we think it's the standard. And there's a monumental difference between a sexy story and the standard story. The standard story about what it actually takes to succeed, it's not sexy. So we don't want it to be true. And that's why we just keep buying the fantasies. So I say all of that to go back to this question and say, please don't put financial stress on a survival business. Pay your bills, get a job. I've done more to try to talk people back into their jobs than to try to support people who've jumped off a cliff without a parachute. Because the reality is we get caught up in the momentum and we just don't understand what it actually takes. So real quick, I'm not going to teach these levels. We'll teach it at another time in the near future. But the 4 stages of growth and success of a business are survival, stability, success, and then significance. Most people are trying to go from survival to success without ever getting stable. That's why almost nobody wins. And it's sad because everybody can win, but you can't go from level 1 to level 3 unless you climb the stairs. You can't skip level 2. You jump in the elevator, it's going to go by level 2. You can't skip steps when the steps stack on top of each other. And nearly all of the marketing messages we have, not just in the coaching industry, but in life in general, is how to go from survival to like flying on your own, right? And that's one of the reasons why so many of us just will never succeed, because we're not in the game right. We're not prepared. I was just having this conversation with somebody earlier about being prepared. Not the question that we answered earlier, but even earlier today. If you're prepared, if you are not prepared for reality, you have no chance. That was the essence of it. If you're not prepared for reality, you have no chance. If you are prepared for reality, you have a chance. That doesn't guarantee you're going to succeed, but at least you're prepared. And there's a certain reality in business growth that cannot be changed. It will never be changed. There's a certain reality in human growth that cannot be changed. It will never be changed. Most of us just wish it wasn't true. And that's why most people don't succeed, because they're not prepared for reality. And they just keep, hoping their fantasies are true. So my philosophy and what we do here as a company, we don't, I can't stand, and not just in the coaching world, not just, personal development. I just can't stand the idea. And it's truly sad to me that so many people are trying to shortcut their human journey. Anyway, a longer rant for another day. All right, next question. How are you guys doing, by the way? Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you are reacting, responding. I've not been looking at all the comments. So if you've been typing in anything in the comments, especially if you're directing anything specifically to me, if you're asking a question, please put Q and colon, and we're capturing them. And I'm going to answer a lot of the questions that have come in. But I just want to check in and see how you're doing. All right, next question. How do you pick yourself up after a hard session or a hard day when the world seems to be going crazy, especially when you know there's a story that can help so many? I love this question because I think this is one of the most important discussions. How do you keep going? Basically, what you're asking is a resilience question. How do you stay resilient? And I believe that resilience is the most important skill to build. Resilience. And I don't even know if it's a skill as much as it's a willingness. It's a decision, right? Resilience is getting back up when you've gotten knocked down. And I've had this discussion with parents a lot. Like, what do you think the most important thing is for your kids to have? What do you want your kids to have? And the most common thing that most parents want their kids to have is some form of resilience. They might word it a different way, but we want our kids to be strong. We want them to be brave. We want them to have courage. We want them to go after their goals and dreams. We want them, we want them to get back up. We want them to not let life keep them down. Those are all resilience answers. Those are just different ways to say the same thing, resilience, basically. So what you're asking is a resilience question. And it's different for all of us, because what's going to get me back up when I've fallen off the horse is not the same thing as what's going to get somebody else back up. So a part of the resilience conversation is, what can you not do? Most of you've probably heard some question like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Right? Let me know if you've heard that question before, or some version of that question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And when our minds put that on, we're like, if I knew I couldn't fail, I'd ask this person out for a date, or I would tell people about my coaching, or I would get up on stage and I would, deliver a TEDx talk, or I would, whatever it is, if you knew you couldn't fail. So why is this bullshit? It's bullshit because it's creating a scenario where you're not going to fail. Find one of those that's true. What scenario could you even engage in life that's meaningful on any level whatsoever, where failure is not possible? So it's a fantasy question. Now, I totally understand the intention of the question. The intention of the question is for us to get around our fear and to go, this is what I want to do. But it's not a reality question. It's not preparing you for reality. It's preparing you for fantasy. Because if you say, if I knew I couldn't fail, then I'm just going to use the first thing I said earlier. I would ask that person out for a date. Okay, great. So then you motivate yourself, like, I'm going to do this because I know I'm not going to fail. And then you go ask them out on a date and they say no. Uh-oh, you failed. Now what? Now what's going to get you to ask somebody else out on a date? If that's what you're trying to do, is get into a relationship, you just convinced yourself that you wouldn't fail, but then you failed. Now, how do you trust yourself again? How do you motivate that piece of you that was only motivated because they thought that failure wasn't going to happen? And then you failed. So many of us have our motivation tied to avoiding failure. And that's so wildly unrealistic. The question I want you to ponder is, what is it that's in your heart, that's in your soul to do, that if you knew you would fail, you'd do it anyway? Because it's important enough to try. That's the question I think is infinitely more valuable than what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail. I want to know what's important enough to you to do when you know you will fail. That's what I meant by you can't not do this. What's the thing that you're unwilling to go to your grave without doing while you're alive? That's the shit that's going to inspire you. Because then when somebody doesn't buy your coaching package, when somebody rejects you, when the thing that you tried doesn't work, you've got this burning desire inside of you that isn't dependent on it working. It's only dependent on you trying it, because you need to know what you're made of. You need to know how wide your wings are and how strong they are and how high they can help you fly. And you can't do that while you're walking on the ground, making sure that you don't ever fall. It's impossible to fly without the risk of falling. That's impossible. So I want to know what is important enough for you to fly toward, even if it means you're going to fall. And then resilience kicks in. What's going to get you to try again? What's going to get you to get back up and dust off whatever just happened to you and go, that's okay. That's part of the process. I can't not try this. I can't not get this message out. You said there's a message that will help so many people. Then speak that message. Be the lighthouse. If you're a lighthouse, you'll never see the ships that are going to see your light and come to you until they reach the shore. You won't see them until they get inside your presence. And then it doesn't matter. They've already used your light. But if you're only going to shine your light as a lighthouse when you can see the ships, your lighthouse will be useless and your light will always be off. Lighthouses shine their lights because that's what they do. Teachers teach because that's what they do. Leaders lead because that's what they do. So I want you to have an identity inspiration. I want you to say, I have to do this because it's who I am, and my soul can't not do who I am. My soul can't not be who I am. And the more that you are committed in being who you are and sharing your message before you know who's going to like it, before you know who's going to appreciate it, before you know who's going to approve of it, before you know who's going to purchase it, don't make your creation conditional on their approval. Because then you're actually not creating, you're prostituting. You're creating the thing that people like. And that's not your thing. If you're only creating it so that they will like it. I want you to create the thing that you can't not create. I want you to share the message that you can't keep swallowed up inside of you. I want you to share the thing. I want you to express whatever it is inside of you that you are unwilling to take with you to the grave. That's what will inspire you. That's what will get you going. And that's what will keep you going when the world is insane. Because from my vantage point, it's not getting any better. It's going in this direction that I think you're alluding to, and it's going to continue going in that direction. So when the world is worlding and when the people are peopling, what are you doing? And I want that decision to be based on who you are and what you can't not do, not based on all the external circumstances that you can't control. So my message to you is shine the light that's inside you that's meant to shine. Share the message that you're meant to share. Sing the song that you have inside of you to sing. Not because somebody is going to purchase your song, but because it's your song and it doesn't belong inside of you. It belongs outside of you. And your message needs oxygen for it to work. Your message needs oxygen for it to evolve. The lighthouse needs to be turned on for the boats to see the light. I just went a little Canadian there, for the boats to see the light. I don't know if that was Canadian. Anyway. So Michelle, I see your notes here. I imagine you posted that in the comments. So there's a video called The Number One Tip to Stay Motivated as a Coach. Expanding on this conversation, I guess. There's another video called How Do You Protect Your Energy as a Coach? Man, sing your song. I have a poem that I wrote on this topic, and if I remember, somebody reminds me, I'll finish the broadcast with it. Next question. How does a person create an income by having a podcast at least once a week? So there are several ways to make money with any kind of content creation. One way is to make money on the platform. So for a podcast to make money on the platform, you got to get sponsorships. For sponsors to sponsor your podcast, you got to get a pretty big audience. For me to say, I'll spend money, I'll pay you for your podcast real estate, I need to know there's a lot of people listening and people will potentially buy my product. Otherwise, you don't have financially viable real estate. That's hard to do. And one of the reasons is that the way to make money on your channels from advertising is to fan the algorithms. And most of you don't want to do that. Most of you don't have a message that will fan the algorithms. The algorithms of social media and the algorithms of information consumption are not they're not set up to help transformational conversations win necessarily. They're just set up to feed and fan the cycle of attention. So what gets human attention? Usually extreme stuff. Usually the hellacious stuff or salacious, whatever that word is. Usually the, oh my God, I can't believe that's maybe true kind of stuff. And most of you don't want to build a channel based on all of that. So a better way to make income is to provide value and then invite people into your space. So you can have a podcast with a few hundred loyal listeners and constantly invite them onto phone calls with you or invite them to your website, or we call those calls to action. Invite them into your playground. And once they're in your playground, they are 1,000 times more valuable to your business when they're on your domain, when they're in your territory, than when they're only in the playground of the platform, right? So invite them into your space, and then they become a really valuable lead for your customer. And that's where you can make a whole lot more money. We have a YouTube channel that has close to 30,000 subscribers. We got Facebook pages with, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people on them. Like all across our channels, we got over 100,000, I think, right, Michelle? I think it was like over 100,000. We got over 100,000 subscribers and fans and all the people on all the lists. They are, from a business standpoint, I'm not talking about like how valuable people are as people, but from a business standpoint, from dollars and cents, they are almost useless. No, I don't want to use useless. They're almost valueless on those platforms. They don't become really valuable to us as a business until they're in our community that we then own. So we make very little on YouTube from YouTube, but we make, I mean, almost everything from YouTube. But it's people that come from YouTube and then go into our community. So YouTube is the entryway, but we're making almost no money on YouTube, if that makes sense, like on the platform of YouTube. So I would say the same thing with podcasts. You know, you got the exceptions to that rule with people who just have wildly famous and, you know, or super popular podcasts, but don't try to build one of those, you know, crazy celebrity kind of podcasts, because it's just not going to work for most of us. So build a valuable community and then keep inviting them into your space so that you can support them. And in that regard, it's more about quality than quantity. All right. Next question. How can you build openness and trust with a very reflexive, quiet, introverted client? Think of an Enneagram type 5. I'm not familiar enough with Enneagram types in order to know exactly what that means. But I'm assuming that it means reflexive, quiet, and introverted, right? How do you build openness and trust? Here's my philosophy. And if you are familiar with Enneagram, which I love, by the way, I'm just not familiar enough to like really discuss it on a detailed level. My philosophy is just a lot more conceptual. So it's not, this is how you build openness and trust with type 5s, and this is how you build it with type 4s, and this is how you build it with type 1s. I don't, that's not how I operate. But how do you build openness and trust just with people? How do you build openness and trust with clients, with humans? And I think it's authenticity is part of it. Truth is certainly part of it. And vulnerability. And part of vulnerability and truth and authenticity is being flawed. Like, we're all flawed humans. And I don't think most people want flawless leaders. I think people want flawed, scraped, bloodied, and bruised leaders. Because if you have been doing the work that you've been doing and you've gotten bloodied and bruised and scraped and, you know, you got some cuts, I trust you a lot more than I trust somebody who's never fallen down, right? So, you know, like share who you openly are. And I think that's the best way to build trust with humans. And it's not the way most people are operating. So it's also a great way to be distinct. Now, if there are things, you know, specific to quiet and introverted clients inside of that, and you assess that somebody's, you know, more of an introvert, then I think now it's a lot about just rapport. How can you validate their view of the world? How can you help them relate to whatever it is that their version of introverted is? Have open discussions, right? But I think it's a lot safer for us as coaches and leaders to use their information than our information, right? So don't try to get them impressed by what we know, get them talking about what they know. And just asking people to talk about things that are important to them, that also builds a lot of trust. And then the one thing that I'll call back on to one of the questions earlier is, so much of leadership and coaching is not so much building something, but recognizing it and recognizing when it's not there. So recognizing when somebody doesn't trust you anymore, and then what can you do to regain the trust that you had before. So we do have a video called How to Create Trust with New Clients Fast, quote unquote fast. So you can check that out. All right, next question. What is a way that we can help our clients break through their limiting identities? First of all, I like the fact that you are asking a question about identities. Identity work is some of the most powerful work that we can do. And we've all created identities, who we think we are. And our ego is designed to protect the identities that are already created. So how do we help our clients do that? First of all, help them have awareness of it. We have identity exercises that we take our clients through sometimes and help them recognize the different identities they have, sometimes actually name those identities, be able to understand when certain identities show up in certain areas of their life or certain circumstances, what triggers certain identities, what certain identities are really good at, and what certain identities are not good at. One of the things that I would caution against, though, is to have any sort of judgments around our identities that feel in any way good or bad. So even a limiting identity has a negative connotation, right? And all of our identities were created out of love. They were created for a purpose. They were created out of protection. They were created to get something done. So you might recognize that a certain identity isn't helping you create a life that you want to create, but that doesn't necessarily mean that identity is bad. And energetically, it's such a major shift that so many people need to have, because a lot of us have these, whether you call it shadows or limiting beliefs or limiting identities or, trauma bodies or whatever you label it. So many of us have things about ourselves that we don't like. And if we try to use shame or anger, irritation to deal with those things, we're not going to create anything that is more stable than what we're trying to get out of, right? We're not going to do anything that actually has the foundation to be happy and joyful and, all that, if we're using anger and shame to try to burn stuff out, right? It's like if you have a tick in your skin, and it's like wedged into the skin and it's eating, into your skin. One of the things I think this is actually real is you take a lighter or, match or something and burn their butt, and then they'll kind of back out, right? That's not how we should treat our identities, right? I'm going to burn you. I'm going to hate you. I'm going to shame you so that you'll back out, because they weren't built with anger and shame. They were actually just built out of protection. So we all have these identities, and helping clients become aware of them, but then helping them relate to them in a healthy way will help them manage them in a healthy way. But if you don't have a good relationship to something, then you're not going to be able to manage it in a healthy way, because your relationship is crappy, right? So that's as much as I want to say about that, because it's just such a long lesson if we were going to teach the whole thing. But we do have a YouTube video on that one called Releasing Your Sabotaging Identities. All right, next question. Is it better to charge mentoring by the hour or by a program? I find it really hard to sell my high ticket coaching program. I have so many judgments toward the whole idea of high ticket. I'm not saying I have judgments towards you, because I don't know what your high ticket is, and I don't know what you're offering, and I don't know any of that stuff. So, my general judgments might not be true if I knew the exact details for you. But I believe the concept of high ticket has killed more dreams than maybe anything else in the coaching industry. The concept of high ticket. Because most people are trying to sell high ticket programs and their business is still in survival. So everything that I said 20, 30 minutes ago, whenever that was, applies here. Here's the best way, like whatever it is that you're trying to sell, and I'm talking to most people, what I'm saying might not be true for you who asked the question specifically, because there are exceptions to rules. But for most people, whatever it is you're trying to sell at a high ticket level, if you're not selling it, then obviously something is not aligned. Either the right customer doesn't see the value enough to buy that thing at that price, or you're not in front of the right people, or you're not messaging it properly. You're not positioning it in a way that they see the value of the outcome and all they can see is the ticket price, right? There's all kinds of variables here that could be misaligned that we need to look at. But for most people, whatever high ticket is, let's just say it's $5,000. Most of you would be able to sell 10 $1,000 programs before you sell one $5,000 program. And now what's more important to you? Now, if selling one $5,000 ticket program is more important to you, okay, then there's ways to figure out how to do that. What I find is that even the concept of high ticket puts the focus on us, and it engages our ego, and it engages risk, and it engages the fear of failing, and it engages frustration. It engages things internally for us that aren't helpful. And high ticket is so subjective. Now, what I will say is to all of you and me, all of us, whatever our mind-blowing high ticket price is, like we think, I wouldn't even be able to get that number out of my face in order to offer it to somebody. Whatever that number is for you, let's just say it's $10,000. You can't even imagine telling anybody that you have a $10,000 program. If any of you are in that situation, actually, I would love for you to type in your number. If you know that number, what's that ceiling number that you can't even imagine? Because you're just not there. And there's nothing wrong with not being there. We're always not there until we're there. And then whenever we're there, we're not there at the next place that we're not there at, right? So this is not in any kind of way like a demeaning, question. It's just what level are you at? So whatever number you're at, please feel free, if you're willing to, share it and put it in the comment section. Whatever number you're at, let's just call it $10,000. If you can't imagine offering a $10,000 program, here's my promise to you. Whatever you would be selling for $10,000, could be a 3-month coaching program, could be a year-long program, could be a single session. Whatever you're afraid to price at $10,000, whatever that product is, somebody somewhere will pay you 10 times that with zero hesitation. I promise you that, because it's all relative. Whatever it is that you're seeing and evaluating is relative to what you believe is valuable in your life. Somebody else would easily go, I'll pay $100,000 for that. If you can help me fix this, easily. I have it tucked in my sock right now. So then if that's important to you to sell that program at $100,000, well, now we just have different strategies for that. You got to get in front of different people and you got to show up in a different way. And the thing that you're afraid to price at $10,000 that somebody would pay $100,000 for, there are certain people that wouldn't pay $10 for. Because whatever it is you're offering isn't more valuable than the $10 they're holding on to in their hand. It's all relative. So high ticket is a subjective conversation in itself, which makes it for most people dangerous. And I'm just speaking from experience, it's just not helpful. In this moment, I can't think of a single person who's ever wanted to sell a high ticket program and they worded it that way and has succeeded. Like sold one of those things. That's what I'm saying. All right, now it looks like I'm back. I was I was experiencing the beach ball of death there for a moment. So just in case my final words there didn't land, I'm positive that there are people who say, I want to sell a high ticket program and they've done it, but I don't know anybody who has. And I think it's because there's just something in the concept of high ticket that is misaligned for most people. Now, having said that, you can sell programs for a lot of money and you can reach those quote unquote high ticket prices, but your business has to develop into that. And if your business is not developed, like if you don't have a high ticket business, you shouldn't have high ticket products. If you don't have a business that can fulfill whatever your high ticket promise is, and the people that you're offering it to also believe that whatever the outcome is worth whatever the price tag is, then you're not going to sell the products, right? Because for most people, high ticket is designed to satisfy the business, not satisfy the customer. And if you have a car to buy and you want to use that car to get to work, and you can buy a car that satisfies all of your needs for $20,000, but somebody else needs $40,000 to fulfill their needs, I bet you're going to buy the $20,000 car. As customers, we don't buy things based on how well it's going to, how valuable it is to the business. We buy things according to how valuable it is to us. So if you have a high ticket offer that's not selling, then they don't see the value of the outcome that you're promising. And the other mistake I think a lot of people make is thinking that people are buying your information. People are not buying your information. They're buying outcomes. Most people don't care about the process. They want the outcome. And so the value of something is determined by the customer's perception of the outcome. It's not determined by your perception of the information or your perception of the process or your perception of the outcome. So much of the pricing conversation in the coaching world, waste of time. People are like, what should I charge for my program? I don't know. What are they buying it at? Yeah, keep selling what they're buying it at. Keep pricing it at that. And if you're like, well, they haven't bought it because I haven't offered it, well, then go offer it. Like so much of this, and I truly don't mean to sound demeaning, but so much of the energy that we put into the decisions that we make are truly a waste of our energy, because it's just like we care about things that they don't care about, or we bring elements into the business arena that don't belong in the business arena. Nobody prices their programs based on their own self-esteem. Nobody does that. Nowhere will you find that conversation except the coaching industry, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. And if you've heard it in anywhere else, if you've ever gone to like business school and they're like, okay, so if you want to buy a Subway franchise, first of all, what you got to do is charge what you're worth for that number 12 foot long. No, you charge what they'll pay for the number 12 foot long. Nowhere in business is your worth a consideration, except in coaching? And I think that's a problem. So I know I went on a little tangent there. I'm positive. I think I probably didn't give you the answer that you may have looked for. You may have been looking for, but it's the answer that I believe in. And it's so much better to get really, really good at whatever it is that you're delivering and be forced to raise your prices than to price yourself at a certain place that you don't feel good about, you don't feel comfortable with, you don't feel certain around, nobody's bought at that price, and then just keep dealing with all the frustration and thinking that, okay, maybe the next time I'll hit a grand slam. Maybe the next time I'll, get this high ticket. It's just, it is that is a rough road to travel. I promise you that. It is a rough road to travel. Now, you asked, is it better to charge mentoring by the hour or the program? Also, before you mention the high ticket, most of the time, it's better to charge for the program. And I'm using better by what works. Most of the time, charging by the program is going to be more beneficial because the outcomes that you probably want to produce for people can't be produced in a single call. So if you want to help people change their marriage, offer them a package. Don't offer them a phone call, because the idea that one phone call is going to help people change their marriage, unless you have some super secret sauce. But for most of you, the outcome that you want to produce requires an extended period of time. Whatever that time is, that should be your package time, I think. So again, when people go, how long should my coaching program be? My answer, my re-question is, how long does it take with all the people that you've coached to produce the outcome that you're promising in the program? They're like 7 months. Okay, great. That's how long your program is. 7 months. Whatever it takes to produce the outcome is the answer. And for most people, it's going to be longer than a phone call. So that would be my suggestion. All right, we're going to freeze the questions here. I'm going to answer the ones that have come in, but we're going to freeze them here. And any of the other questions that do come in, we'll answer them in future calls. No, I'm just going to freeze them here and be done, because we're 90 minutes in. And so in the spirit of consumption and not being on here for another hour, we'll freeze them here. We've got 6 questions left, and we'll continue to answer these questions. So for those of you, first of all, thank you for joining. If this has been helpful, let me know. If there's anything in particular that really landed for you, please let me know. We want to answer as many questions as we possibly can. I told you in the very beginning, if you were in the beginning, that I answer as much as I can for comprehension. Like, I want you to get this stuff. Otherwise, it'd be like, the question came in, how do you fire a client? Well, you say blah, blah, blah. And I could give you a script, but that script will only work on nobody. Ever. Except maybe me or whoever wrote the script, right? So I want, more robust conversations. All right. Before we go, I did say that I have a poem that I want to read you guys based on one of the questions that came in and the conversation that resulted after it. No, my nose is not bleeding. Michelle just asked if my nose is bleeding. I think that's just like a dark streak in, my hair's coming in, and it's gray in some places and red in some places and brown in some places. So I would imagine, now that I'm super self-conscious about it, I would imagine that you're seeing, I don't know, one of these two sides that just have a little bit darker roots. I didn't dye those roots as good as I dyed the other ones. And so they're producing an illusion of blood, I guess. I don't know. All right. So I'm going to read the poem, but before that, I just want to talk a little bit about ECCP. We've got this 5-day certification program coming up, and it's a deep dive, immersive experience. We've currently got a $500 off promotion going until Friday, March 10th. Today, as I'm recording this, is Wednesday, March 8th. So if you're watching this live, you got a couple days. If you're watching it afterwards, depends on when you're watching it. I don't know. But we've got a week-long promotion that we're 5 days into where you can save $500. The coupon code is PIF 500. The PIF stands for paid in full, $500. But you don't have to pay in full to get the $500 because we've got another coupon code for you that is PP 500. That stands for payment plan 500. So if you go to the website, coachshansmith.com/ECCP, you'll be able to read all about it, all the different levels of learning and layers that we teach in the process or in the certification program. It's 5 days. It's immersive. It's all online. So you can stay in your home and join us. It's all recorded. So even if you can't be there every minute of every day, we provide the recordings pretty much immediately so you can catch up right away. Or if you have to miss half a day because you got life going on, we certainly don't want you to join if all you're going to do is try to catch the recordings. That's not going to be as valuable to you. But all of our tickets are also good for 2 years. So you can take advantage of the $500 code right now, but maybe the dates, April 24th through the 28th, don't work for you. It's a Monday through Friday, but the ticket is good for 2 years. And we do these roughly every 6 months. So you'll have 2 years worth, which means 3 or 4 more ECCPs that you can choose to use this ticket for. So, there's no risk on your end. If it's something that you're considering, it's something that will help you grow. It's something that will give you more confidence and certainty and energy and all the things we've been talking about on this call. That's what we want to provide for you. We want you to be a damn good coach. The best way to get clients is to be a really good coach so that people can't not hire you because the stuff that you're talking about is so damn good that they want it. That's the best way to market. That's the best way to sell coaching services is be a good coach. Most people think the best way to sell coaching services is to be good in sales. That's horseshit. The best way to sell coaching services is to be good at coaching. You want to be good at the product. You don't want to be good at the convincing of purchasing of the product. You want to be good at the product. And when you're offering people coaching, if they say yes, your job starts. Your job doesn't end. In most sales transactional conversations, when the client says yes, the salesperson's job is over. But when they say yes to you as a coach, your job begins. So don't try to get good at the job that's going to end when they say yes. Get really good at the job that's going to start when they say yes. And I will put my entire everything that's valuable to me on this statement that I'm going to make. Most people don't succeed as a coach because they don't believe in their coaching abilities. That's what creates the imposter syndrome. That's what creates the fears. Trust me on this. More people are actually afraid of people saying yes to their coaching than people saying no to their coaching because they don't trust themselves as a coach. If you don't trust yourself as a coach, my advice is stop trying to sell something you don't believe in and get to the point where you believe in it. Now, that could mean dropping the rates. It could be coaching for free. It could be, various options. But the biggest problem for most people's sales is not their sales. It's their coaching. And you're actually going to be a better salesperson as a good coach than you are a coach as a good salesperson. And I would also bet that if I were to ask any of you when you were 10 years old what you wanted to be when you grew up, you didn't say a salesperson. So most of us are trying to learn something we don't even like. We don't want to be good at the thing that we think we have to be good at. What I'm telling you is the thing that you probably think you have to be good at is the worst thing to be good at. And you don't need to get good at that. It's so much easier to sell as a coach and as a teacher than it is to coach and teach as a salesperson. ECCP is about developing your certainty in yourself as a leader and as a coach. And it's about understanding the deep, deep principles of behavior. So many of the things we talked about: identities, beliefs, values, programs. It's the inner workings. It's like learning how to become a human mechanic, not a mechanic who's human, but a mechanic for humans. It's like understanding what the engine is doing inside of the human. It's learning how to treat the engine of humans, which is our brain and behavior and how we learn and how we process and how we make changes, right? I think almost everybody so I'm going to pause on that. I don't know if I'm going to go back to that, but so currently right now, I hired a nutritionist and a personal trainer for exercise. And what I've been doing for the last 2 months is tracking everything that I eat, like down to the calorie, like every single thing I put into my mouth, I track. And I had the awareness a few days ago that I'm just now starting to understand. I'm just now starting to get a understanding of certain things that I put in my body and the way I feel and what it does to my energy levels and what it does to my weight and what causes my weight to increase or my weight to decrease or what's more important to me than weight anyway. And it just hit me the other day that I've been doing this for 2 months and I'm just now starting to understand to the point where I can start to make decisions based on recognition, based on awareness, based on, knowledge, experience. Up until now, I've always just wanted people to just tell me what to eat. I mean, if you just tell me what to eat and I'll eat it. Okay. And then we get on, we want the quick success, right? I've been on so many fad diets. I'm sure most of you have too. And the problem with fad diets is they work. The bigger problem with fad diets is they stop working. And when they stop working, they usually do more damage than the good that was created when they were working. I have a point to all of this, by the way. But I just had this realization, like I'm just now starting to understand. And most people won't track for 2 months. So what it takes for most people to understand what they're wanting to then control, they'll never get to because they won't do what it takes. Because it sucks. Because it's not comfortable, because it's not easy, because I don't know what 3 ounces of meat looks like. But now I do. Because I was irritated so many times and I had to weigh that shit. And then like, oh, now I start to understand a little bit. So what changed the transfer here, because almost everything that I learn, I think about coaching, because I've just been in the coaching world for like what seems like forever. I mean, it's 10, 12 years. I've been in the coaching world, personal development, for 18 or so. But as far as like in the coaching world, helping people build coaching businesses and certifying coaches and all that stuff, like 12 years. So I just have this coaching lens on all the time. So when I had that thought that I am only just now understanding so that I can actually make decisions in a certain way and I can get certain things and I can ask questions of my nutritionist that are more valuable now than when I first met her. Now I get to ask like 3rd grade questions. At first, I was asking, just lower level questions. But then I transferred this into the coaching lens immediately. And it was like, you know why most coaches don't succeed? is because almost everybody is trying to build a business of fads instead of a business of foundation. It's that simple. And fads are never sustainable, ever. That's why they're a fad. As soon as they become sustainable, they won't be a fad anymore. They'll be fundamentals. They will be foundation. And the foundational principles are not new, and they're not exciting, and they're not sexy. So most of us are not interested in them. And that's why we don't succeed, because we're not actually following sustainable approaches. We're following quick fix fads. And that same principle, it's a psychological principle. It's a human psychology principle. We want what we want yesterday. And we want it to be a straight downhill journey where we don't have to put any effort. We all want that. Our brains will never not want that. It's just that it's never worked. And we just have to understand, if we want to build something of significance that's sustainable, we need to do that on foundation. And so before you get the bricks and the mortar and start building up, you need to get the knee pads and the shovels and start digging down. Yeah, most people, well, we're not interested in the digging down part. I just want to get to the building up part. Okay, then you'll never have a building. So we need to be, again, prepared for reality. Don't keep betting on fantasies. Prepare for reality. And what our goal is with ECCP is that, to prepare you for the reality of coaching. Not just to teach the tools and to give you some kind of a quiz at the end and give you some piece of paper. That doesn't mean anything. Nobody's going to pay you for your certificate, but they'll pay you for your certainty if you can demonstrate it. But you can't demonstrate anything that's not real, at least not in any kind of authentic way. So ECCP is much more about authentic certainty, deep dive discussions, learning, practicing, experiencing the work so that you can become the work, so that you can understand it, so that you can then talk about it, so that you can then message, so that you can then invite people from a place of stability and certainty. That's why most coaches don't succeed, is they never get to stability or certainty in themselves, which is the product. If the product never has stability and certainty, how can you build a business? How can you build a stable business around an unstable product? I mean, that's like laughable when you think about it that way. It's laughable to go, okay, we have a product, we don't even know if it works. And sometimes when it does work, it kind of like blows up and lights people's carpets on fire. But let's go ahead and try to build a successful, sustainable business around this product that's unstable and we can't trust because we don't believe in it, because it's not proven. But let's go ahead and build stable business practices to overcompensate for the instability of the product. Said nobody ever. Except in the coaching world. Said everybody always. Never with that words, never with those words or that understanding. That's essentially what so many people are doing. They're trying to find the overcompensation strategies rather than the foundation strategies. So please don't be an overcompensating coach. Be a really good coach and build your way up to stability and then success. And then you can reach greater levels of impact, but you got to do it in the right way. So ECCP is a 5-day deep dive certification that we want you to experience all of that. There's another level of our certification program. It's online. It's called BCC. This $500 promotion that we have is for both of them together, because in order to go to ECCP, which is the second level, you have to go through BCC, which is the first level. BCC is online at your own pace. We've had people go through it in a few weeks. We've had people take a few months. We've had some people take a few years because it's at your own pace. But you can do it in a relatively short period of time. You have plenty of time for any of you that are listening to this to go through BCC and then be ready for ECCP. So that $500 package, for any of you that are not in BCC, you get both of them, right? For any of you that are in BCC, I want to direct your attention to the videos that we've done in BCC, because it'll give you all the information that is relevant to you in BCC. I don't want to try to cloud this, this space and confuse people with, well, if you're here, then this, if you're here, then this, if you're here, then this. So my main message to all of you that have not joined either of those programs, you have an opportunity to get that package for $500 less than we've ever sold it, and get both of those programs, right? Up until Friday, March 10th. So that's ECCP. If you don't know if it's a good fit for you, jump on the phone. You can go to coachshansmith.com/book my call and talk with Alicia and ask her whatever questions you have. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I've done. This is what I'm afraid of. Is ECCP a good fit? Or is BCC a good fit? Or is somebody else other than you guys a good fit? She'll tell you straight. She's authentically going to go, this is what you need and this is what you don't need. So we'll support you to make a decision. And we are not in the game of where we're trying to get everybody to say yes to our programs. Everybody needs to say yes to ECCP. We don't even believe that. It's not a good fit for everyone. If you want to be an informational coach, like you want to teach people just how to save money or make money in the stock market or build Amazon stores or, do retail stuff or anything that's informational, you don't need ECCP. If all you're going to do is informational, ECCP, it's like buying a Cadillac when all you need is a skateboard. And I'm not saying anything negative about informational coaching. It's just, if you're only going to snorkel, don't go to scuba diving class, because you won't use it. All you need is just, I don't even know they have snorkel class. I don't know that you need a snorkel class other than don't go further down than the length of your snorkel tube. And you just learn that lesson right away. So you don't need like a full-on class. But my understanding to scuba dive, you need classes about that. Like, you need to understand what happens when your body goes down that way, that deep in the water, right? So if you're only going to snorkel at the surface, that's totally cool. We're not the best fit for you, because we just talk about the deeper stuff. Now, there's always deeper stuff in any conversation for humans, but if you don't want to do that, then don't learn the stuff that you're not interested in. But if you are interested in the deep dive stuff, then that's what ECCP was created for. It's a combination of 18 of my years, 8 of Michelle's years, and our whole community, and the hundreds of thousands of hours that we've put together. And there's really phenomenal coaches in this space, and it's a co-creation process. It's a phenomenal course. So I'd put it up against anything, truly. Cause it just produces transformation. That's what it is. And not only do we want it to produce transformation for you in your life, we want to help you start producing transformation for other people as well. So that's ECCP. If you want more information, if you're not sure if it's for you yet, you can jump on the phone or email us. Maybe it doesn't even take a phone call if you have questions, but we'll support you in any way that we can. And how about this, Michelle? How about anybody that books the call within the time frame of the discount period, but Alicia's calendar can't get to you yet? Then we'll still observe when you took action. Just let us know that I want to put an anchor in this promotional period. But you have to tell us that. So if you want to continue engaging in all this stuff, pay attention. Pay attention to our channels. We're going to be doing a bunch more videos. Get on our email list if you're not already on it. We're going to be doing all kinds of promotions via email. We'll be talking about all kinds of conversations. We're going to break down so many of the components of coaching that we teach in ECCP. We're going to break down trust. We're just going to break down a lot of the skills that are required for people to be good coaches in terms of our philosophy and everything that we've learned along the way. So there's a payment plan. There's $500 off, whether you're paying in full or you're doing a payment plan. PIF 500 is the pay in full. Coupon code PP 500 is a payment plan coupon code. Check out everything at ecc.com, coachseansmith.com/ECCP, and pay attention to future videos that we do. If you're intrigued in the conversation, whether you're going to join us at ECCP or not, if you're intrigued in this conversation, transformation, behavior, all the stuff, creating trust, rapport, leverage, exercises that will change people's life, like all that stuff, stick around over the next month or month and a half. We're going to be doing a lot. We're going to be sharing a lot. We're going to be teaching a lot. We're going to be breaking down all these concepts. And if it intrigues you, great. If you know you want to get in the ECCP, jump in and we'll support you there. And if not, we'll do whatever we can to help you out. So hopefully this has been valuable for you. We'll probably do more Q&A sessions, either lumped in together like this, or we'll just devote a whole video to one question or mix them in with some of the other videos, but we'll get your questions answered. So continue to ask. Even if you're watching the replay now, you can go ahead and ask. If you're watching the replay right now and you're an hour and 51 minutes in, I toast you and I honor you, and I really celebrate your commitment to this conversation. That's really powerful. And how many of you've been with us the whole time? If you were here live at the beginning when we started and you're still here with us live, I want to know that too. Michelle just raised her hand behind the scenes. Come on. Maybe I should have said, and paying attention and not watching shows or shopping infomercials or other things. Oh, boy. If I was quicker with my mouse, I would have brought you into the stream at that point and everybody would have seen apparently which one of your fingers is most important to you. All right, looks like I'm back. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate all of you that have said that you are still here and you showed up in the very beginning. Cool, cool, cool. Somebody says, do you have to do BCC first? Yes, you have to do a version, not a version, but you have to do, we want you to be familiar with the concepts. That's the main thing. You don't have to go through everything and do every lesson and do every exercise and pass the test necessarily. But we want you to have enough awareness of a lot of the concepts that you won't be lost in ECCP. And all of you can do that. And we've had people buy like 2 days before ECCP started, and they just kind of binged the audios of BCC. I might have said BCC. They bought like 2 days before ECCP started, and they just binged BCC, and they were ready and they were prepared. So, the more you go through it, the better, but you don't have to have gone through all of it. But it is phase 1 of the whole certification program. All right. I was going to get supper. Nice. Awesome. I'm just reading some of your comments that came in about being here the whole time. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your night. I appreciate you all so much. I really honor your contributions to this conversation, whether you've been commenting or you asked a question or you've just been paying attention. I appreciate that energetic co-creation. And I look forward to many more conversations in the near future here. So with that, everyone, take care. Have a good rest of your day. Talk to you soon.